can apply this to any individual in the world. This is the subtitle is General Psychological Guideline to Analyzing the Etiology of the Radical Thoughts. But as I said, that people develop the radical thoughts is the same as people developing their ideology. So we cannot distinguish them from the general population. I want to share my approach that maybe terrorist actors is pathological. Maybe they are psychopaths, so they develop different kind of personality among them. And beginning in the early 90s, the researcher started to realize that maybe they are wrong all this time. So they're switching to the approach that maybe the terrorist is not pathological. Maybe they are normal and there are no concerns of their clinical disorders, etc. They are not developing any symptom which would lead them diagnosed as pathological. So there are no reason to determine the roots of their behavior with psychological Google. So we have to put aside the psychopathological approach when we look into the terrorist mind. I also had these kind of experiences myself back then when I'm beginning research with Faisal. On my mind, at the first place, I thought that maybe Ali Imran, back then the first terrorist I met, these are very dangerous men, etc. But even though some of them, like Abu Jana, is quite dangerous, but in terms of personality and personally also, they could develop a strong social skills, signs of bizarre behavior, extreme thoughts, etc. They just have a different goal.
And they also go in communication, right?
Yes, they have excellent communication. And in 2009 and 2010, I became realized that the difference between the individuals from the terrorist organization is the level of their participation. The person with bigger or broader responsibility tend to have more intelligent perspective. But people in the front area, they have like small or limited educational background and comes from the poorer family, etc. So the difference is not from their personality, but from their background. But still, their functionality is considered deteriorating, not because they are pathological, but due to the imprisonment and other social factors. Example, alienation, stigmatized, and then their limited access to economy because their role or their stigma. Still, we have to consider them as functionally disturbed. And what clinical psychological could give to this issue is the clinical psychology have approaches that still needed in order to determine the causes of their behavior. This is actually a broad goal for clinical psychology, and how to make their life better. So it's still considered as the field of clinical psychology, even though they are not psychopathological. Okay, looking to the wall, first step you have to choose your weapon. This is very important because if you choose wrongly, then the result is not very accurate. For example, if you choose one approach and then you interpret, you develop your questionnaire or you develop your interview sheet as with one approach, and then you analyze it with different approach, of course it will be inaccurate. So you have to consistently using the same approaches. In my experience, I'm using the standard weaponry as any person from bachelor psychological background might have understood. So maybe we can refresh it, because that's all I have to give right now. We some kind of refresh all the approach for the clinical interpretation, or personality interpretation. Okay, the number one, the psychodynamic approaches. The premise is personality and its factors determined by their unconscious motive. So if you choose this weapon, you have to develop a strategy that is strongly influenced by this approach. One key word is the unconscious motive. So you have to begin to create questions for interviews or observations using the premise that these people did their behavior or did their develop their personality because of the unconscious motives. This approach is very useful for finding the very root of the complex. Complex is very central term for the psychodynamic approach, because it describes how the mind and the body and the thoughts and their drives weaving the personality. For example, if someone have a trauma, psychological trauma, or heavily stressed, their complex is the person, his or her complex is the whole personality which leads to the trauma. It can be due to recent traumatic events or very past traumatic events, and they are developing that complexes, so they are developed certain psychological traits or personality. So we have to dig through their minds, and we need to have a very large amount of the same and very close individuals. So maybe with Ali Imran, the person who talks too much, we can make a plan to do this approach, but with maybe like a limited, very selective of their words is unwise. And very important condition is if there are no or very limited data about childhood or adolescent events, because this is very root of the psychodynamic approach. If you ask them only the traumatic events in their adult life, it won't be any good to us, because we have to know from the very beginning, since the maybe 5 years old and going through their adolescence times. We have to conduct a very thorough interview and conduct many psychological tests, probably the projective tests to dig their mind. And the recommended theoretical approach is I personally exclude the Freud psychodynamic theory because it is very nonsense to me, and they are only good for explaining children. But if the individual is above 5 years, they are no good using Freud. But I still use Adler's individual theory because they have a little sense to it, especially the family constellation. You know, do you still remember family constellation? If the firstborn, whether the firstborn, secondborn, or the lastborn, or twins, or single, tunggal, the only children, the only child, etc. And also the very important aspect of Adler theory that very connected to our issue of radicalism is the fictional goals and the inferiority complex. Those two terms are intertwined because every person, according to Adler is developing the fictional goals. Not only the terrorists, but also we all human beings develop our own fictional goals. Whether it's that we have to be the most famous person, or the most strong person, the most handsome or beautiful person, most intelligent person, etc. That's our fictional goals. Because they are fiction, there's no way that we could reach that goal. But Adler said that people with a normal personality could manage their own fictional goals and drive the motive toward the I forgot the term, but they have Adler have his own term. But the person with psychopathology or with maladaptive behavior couldn't manage to have to make peace with those kind of goals and their motive, so they becoming inferiority complex. They develop inferiority complex. So this is very useful, but this also I want to emphasize that this could only work if we have a large amount of time. And the second is Murray's psychogenic needs. He's an American psychoanalyst. I think this is the only prominent American psychoanalyst. He's the one who developed the thematic acquisition test, the needs and the press. So before the modern psychologist, Murray already developed 17 to 29 needs, which every individuals might develop. For example, need for achievement, need for affiliation, need for power, bereavement, and so on. There are 17 to 29 needs, but the original Murray's needs is only 17 human needs. And the recommended tools, if you have a large amount of time, you can use the P80 because for clinical settings, it is very useful to make participant tell stories about the picture, and we can make interpretation about the pictures. This is not like Rorschach with an idiotic blots, but this is a picture. Maybe we can test Ovi habis ini. And the second, this is maybe Jung's theories is difficult in terms of developing interviews or observation using Jung's method, but we can use his approach to personality using the MBTI. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator is a very application of the Jung theory, so we can use it. And this is my best weapon, my daily weapon. It's not. I'm not using this only for terrorists, but also for every person I've met. Focusing on the behavior and its history is the only data we have. So we have. This is the safest approach in predicting the outcome of the behavior, because we have only focus on the behavior itself, not the roots of it, not the complex, not the anything that apa namanya bahasa psikologinya malah kelihatan hidden boleh. Now this is very useful to find symptoms only symptoms.
Visit.
No, apa namanya?
Visit bukan
Perilaku yang
unrecognized.
ini selain psikologi banget itu.
Perilaku yang
Ada di cobain. Ada tadi kan.
jadi penasaran.
Intangible.
Tangible, intangible.
And this is useful to find symptoms because we have to focus on the behavior only. So all the data regarding their behavior, whether it's from the questionnaire, the questions, or from the observation, is useful to make judgment about their behavior and symptoms. Whether they have maybe they don't develop disorders, but maybe they have a symptom like prolonged stress or desperation, depression, etc. So focus on the symptoms only and how to eradicate them. This is very safe and very useful in terms of making the symptoms gone. Best if little time, not emotionally disturbed. Intelligent. Why is they have to be intelligent? Because this approach requires homeworks. Requires themselves to search for their own past behavior, past thoughts, and past feelings. This is called the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy. This is very behavioral, very USA. Okay, recommended insights. So, if we choose the number 2 weapons here, we must force, tanda kutip, the participant to acknowledge the reward punishment system. By whom and how. That's the data we have to obtain. How they join the group, how they've been encouraged by the other member, how they thought that their wives or their children, their father and mother gave them punishment or reward regarding their involvement in the group or the action. Which person that disagree with you and what's your thought about it. That's the must know insights for us as the interviewer. And the second is we have to acquire information about his or her role models. This is from the Bandura theory, the vicarious learning. We have to know his or her role models, whether it's fictional or a real person. We have to know. And the third one is which social settings that they are avoiding, because this is maybe due to their inability to cope with punishment, social punishment, etc. So this is very useful data to make prediction about their successfulness in the future. And the last is always ask what do you feel or think about certain past events. So they are not only telling you a story about the past, but we have to make them say that I feel or I think that I'm feeling very sad, for example, because of the death of my father. At the age of 5, and back then I only raised by my mother, etc. So we always ask, what do you feel about things? This is a very good insight. And the tools I usually did is the river of life. This is maybe looks like a projective method, but it's not projective at all. They are not projecting any of their thoughts or complex in the paper, but instead they are drawing their past experience, so we can ask about which is the more meaningful or not very meaningful for them. So we can know the reward punishment system they have developed throughout many years. Okay, it's number 3. This is we cannot use this weapon with or for people with strong resentment or people with disturbed emotion or in trauma, because it is focused on their thoughts about him or herself and his or her role in this world. We cannot ask people in depression about this. It's not their time. But it's useful to make the individual learn about him or herself and their role in society. So it's more like from 0 to 10. The past weapons is from minus to 0. It is unrecommended if we never met him or her, and not enough data about the symptoms. We don't know about their condition. Also, the warden or the prison staff is not have any idea. Not enough time for intervention and to disturb individual, because the goal of these approaches is to develop intervention. There's no only goal, no other goal, is to create intervention, individual intervention. So if we don't have time for the intervention, please do not use this weapon. Instead, use the number 2 weapon, the behavioral method, because it involves very lengthy processes and very what do you call it? Not a simple one lah, gitu maksudnya. And the best method is allow the individual to search their own meaning in life. So can you imagine if you did this or you do this to maybe siapa ya? Yang ngaco-ngaco. Siapa tuh yang gondrong?
Narasumber.
Bukan, gondrong.
Poso.
Jebol.
Masih ya ini. Oh.
Setelah apa ya?
Selamat.
Yeah. You want to ask about his selamat's meaning of life. Can you imagine how hard it is? So, but for a person with high cooperativeness, it is rather easy. Maybe Umar Patek to do this, or siapa tuh yang di Poso? Blur, yeah. But this is also tricky for person with nggak nyambungan yang tinggi, ya, because it involve yang tell me itu pasti susah, karena we have to dig.
SP susah.
Mungkin. Karena ini this is very connected, very connected.
Tolong dikat.
Iya, catat.
The second method is to guide him or her to acknowledge his or her position in the hierarchy pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whether it's in the physical needs or the belongingness needs, but they have to know their exact position so they can make their own plans with their life. And the third method is acknowledge his or her discrepancy. This is a Rogerian method to know whether we have a big discrepancy between our ideal self and real self. This is how person develop their psychological disorders, because they are too large. The discrepancy is too large between the ideal self, the person that we want to be, and the real self, the person we are currently. So if they have this is some kind of adler, this is not involving the unconscious motives. This is their self-thought about themselves. I want to be like this, I want to be like that. In 10 years, 5 years, we have to make sure that their goals is not very unrealistic. If their goal is unrealistic, we have to be cautious about the person's sanity.
I don't know how if the response something like, I think it will be common. My meaning in life is to sacrifice myself for the glory of Islam.
Yeah, this is very ideal, right, for every Muslim. Yeah, but they don't know that the road to the goal is impossible if you do it alone. Yeah, if you do it alone or with 10 people, 100 people, is very good. Mas Biji, ada apa metode yang dipakai? What method for person named Anakin Skywalker? Given all the information we have. Adis Mas,
I think
Star Wars.
Anakin Skywalker should be used psychodynamic.
Why?
Psychodynamic approach because I think Anakin have a very complex childhood, and then and he looking for father figure. So I think that was his unconscious motive to drive him to maladaptive behavior.
Okay, the story of Anakin Skywalker focused on his childhood. So we have a very large amount of data regarding his childhood, his relation to his mom, his relation to the girl he's been in love with, and his path to the dark side. This is a very big amount of data regarding his childhood and his adolescence time. And the second one, what method? Which method? Is he disturbed or not?
Smiling gentle.
Yeah.
I think it's not, but his behavior is not disturbed.
Yeah, maybe the
But we cannot ask him to draw something like real.
Yeah.
We don't have
Maybe difficult.
any data about his childhood.
The access to this person is very limited.
Yeah.
So we have to.
But there is autobiography for.
Yeah. So we have to mengandalkan third person external sources.
Yeah.
So, and the impact of his behavior might impair the society, right? So there have to be a slight pathological symptom that he's not realized about it, but it's causing severe damage.
Can we use humanistic approach to this person? If he's still alive, can we use?
The humanistic person, if the humanistic approach for a person that we cannot have access to is difficult. So we can use the behavioral method for this one because we rely only on the external sources. Right? Patologis banget itu. Iya. Dia nggak pernah.
Dia nggak ada
di
di
Prabowo tuh nyantai mana-mana ini nggak. Jauh banget.
Nah, setelah Putin ya, nyantai sebenarnya.
Betul. Agnes Gonja Boyajiu.
Siapa itu?
Nggak tahu. Ini gue sengaja pakai foto mudanya. Ini this is Mother Teresa actually.
Badan Teresa.
Ya.
Kayak ini.
Kayak orang dangdut.
Belum dikira.
Kayak kalau zaman dulu zong semua sih mukanya. Okay, what do you think about this person? What method is
Kayak kalau dalam Conjuring atau Hereditary gitu.
Okay, we might have access if we go to Kolkata to meet this person. There's no limited access to her. She's very old back then. She's gay. That
When she's famous, when she's famous, she's very old.
yeah, she's very old. We will never met her in this condition because she considered by the followers or by the media to have a very meaningful life, very kind to the poor, to the leper, etc. So we don't have time as well to go through to her childhood. So the best method is to using the humanistic approach because the very senior citizen considered as a virtuous by many people. So we want to know whether she in what is her discrepancy between the ideal self. I don't know. Maybe she considered herself as saint, so she have a big discrepancy. We don't know her daily life.
Why she decide to be nun when she looks pretty like this?
And she also Albanian person from it's a minority in her country, a majority Muslim population Albania. Iya, namanya itu semua terbentukkan.
Ini Albania.
Pakai isi tanda-tandanya.
Dia itu yang main bola, jaga sakiri.
Bukan Poland. Bukan Poland.
Albania. Agnes Gonja, Oliagiu.
Berarti boleh ya?
Albania. Rambutnya hitam, tapi gini. So for her, maybe for Gandhi, maybe for Mandela, and other virtuous person, we could dig their personality using the humanistic approach. It's very useful as well as example to the other people. Okay, that concludes my presentation. That's my experience in the using general psychological approach to interpret the life of the terrorists. Okay, any question? Teman-teman sekalian? Only use the behavioral method. I'm using the river of life to dig their past experience about their role models and their vicarious learning and their reward punishment system, etc. Why? Because those systems are the one who's shaping their behavior until now. Then that is the limitation of their behavior is only that. I mean, they cannot extend to another personality because that is their experience, their own experience. What I mean is that the intervention could be narrowed down into very limited intervention. So we have to dealing with the social phobia, for example. If we dug him his life and we conclude that there is social phobia and we only intervene in those areas, which is like Bapak Yusuf Bindut in Lamongan. He certainly have a social phobia.
Oh, social phobia.
I'm not diagnosed that very clearly, but he certainly have a tendency to develop social phobias. So I have to deal with the symptom only. It's very useful for ours, like maybe 15 to 30 minutes interview for some instance, maybe more than 30 minutes, like in Lamongan. In Poso, it's very possible to have a 30 minutes. But in other areas, I could manage 30 to 40 or 50 minutes of interviews. So it's like Gali in Cirebon, in Lamongan as well. Develop like some kind of a bizarre thought process. It could be due to the mistreatment of his parents, because he only tells stories about his mom but not his father, and even though his father is present, but he is absent from his story. So why? We can make conclusion that maybe the role of the punishment system is not good enough for him, because the very important punishment system for individual, especially for young male, is from his father. So we can conclude that maybe some kind of intervention program won't work for him, because he would consider the person is have authority among him. It's like that's my conclusion. So I'm only using the behavioral method.
And what is the did you find something like common with those and something like unique cases? Like Magrie is unique cases, and the other one, for example, what's common result from this conflict?
Because my subjects is all from the, in the prison. They have a similar situation. Their feeling of loneliness, even though they are not included, but suddenly, because it's due to their proximity towards the God.
Loneliness before or in prison?
In prison, yeah.
Okay.
They feel like, but they overcome the loneliness with their proximity to God with prayers and fasting, etc. They think that they could manage the loneliness, but I can see it in their stories that they are developing some kind of desperation inside the prison, and their hope is very, very different one from another, but in comparison with people from outside of prison, they have lower hope. Lower hope. And like, I don't see any pathological symptom except for Gali. All the other.
But so they have a low hope,
Yeah.
but still aggressive.
They don't. The majority of them they don't show signs of aggressiveness. Only verbal exclamation like selamat. But they are not, cianjur gitu. But there are no tendency toward doing physical harm, just like in Madiun.
Okay.
And the most difficult individual is in Madiun as well. Siapa namanya? Agung Haris, Agung Hamid. Yeah, this boy the most difficult client I ever dealt with, because I don't know, maybe he developed some charm in his personality, which makes me nervous around him. I don't know why. Agung Hamid.
Like something like Ustaz there?
Yeah.
Ustaz.
He's only like maybe early 40s,
Yeah.
but he's a very, very good charisma. Maybe like any other hardline terrorist, strong terrorist could say anything about their like Selamat. I don't afraid of Selamat at all. But with Agung Hamid, I feel very nervous. Fijan is there. Yeah, I'm sweating. Itu AC loh itu.
Charismatic.
Ya, keringetan tuh. Sama yang cianjur juga kagak.
Enggak, itu mah cianjur.
Padahal kan udah kayak
Sebenarnya sama yang di Pasir Putih juga masih karismatik. Agung Hamid tuh sama.
Iya.
Tengah-tengahnya Bukan Basir tuh.
Jadi emang dia itu belum bercorak semua guys tau.
Hah?
Siapa yang maling-maling gitu kan?
Bukan.
Patah-patah gitu.
Ustaz juga dia, Ustaz siapa ya? Ustaz Afif.
Oh, itu benar. Jangan ketemu.
So you feel something like evil things inside him, or
No, not evil, but big despair about the world.
Yeah.
And he successfully managed to convert it to become wisdom. So we could see like a wolf inside, but with the sheep skin outside. You know? Yeah. So yeah, he's very calm, He's very nice to other people, but when he say about his experience, it's very frightening. But yet still, he didn't show sign of physical aggression. He's very cooperative, but the way he talked and the way he tells stories about his life is very charismatic, I guess. Maybe we can compare him to Abu Dujana. But Abu Dujana have less remorse, not remorse, resentment towards the world. This one is developing like he hated the world.
Yeah. And just this word.
It could be explained by the condition that he is a life sentence, right? With no clemency due to maybe he thinks that he only doing a small ngebom JK sih ngaco sih mungkin. Kayaknya udah sih. Dia ngebom JK.
Suka iya dia suaminya apa ya perusahaannya di Makassar.
Oh, kan JK udah kan?
Iya. Mau
dibom.
Iya, JK mau dibom. Yang Magrie apa ya maksudnya?
Pas itu JK wapresnya pertama kan?
Iya, pertama tuh.
Dan dia family kan?
Ya.
Dia family.
Family in Makassar. Enggak, dia udah ke sini juga.
Udah pindah sini.
Yang pertama itu dua ya.
Can you imagine life?
All family members move to
No, only wife.
Okay.
Can you imagine the disparity if you are contained in one cell, but you can hear the world outside you, like the horn of the car, the siren, etc. You know that everything is going on outside. Yeah, but you cannot have any access to it. Maybe it's that different if you are life sentence, but in Pasir Putih, because inside and outside is practically the same. But in a crowded area like Madiun, in the front of the jail is a big high road, highway, jalan gede lah gitu. Yeah, you can hear anything, but you cannot have access. It's very desperate, I guess.
Iya, bedanya itu ya.
Kayaknya itu
Tapi dia itu sebenarnya kalau kata orang yang mengebom JK gitu ya.
sama aja tinggal di sini, tapi penjara nih.
Iya, lu nggak boleh keluar nih. Paling cuma bisa ke balkon.
Lebih stres.
Coba deh, cuma bisa ke balkon doang ya.
Terus ada pangkat sini sate Madura kan, pasti pas.
Iya.
Oh
Iya.
Hey, any more?
Komen Pak Haji. Ada
Apa diskusi apa? Nah, tero-tero.
Kita kan ini kan, in our research we found that the character have pattern that they have father issue and looking father issue.
Unfortunately, I have to admit that our approach back then in the post-prison program is not very adequately conducted. Due to we have to forcefully using the Davido.
Not Davido, just we as about their story, childhood story. Their mother become stranger.
But we using the nonetheless we are using the Davido. It is very useful if we repaint or stroke, repeated stroke, etc. I and Mr. Sarlito dulu is not. We are promised with ourselves that we cannot draw into the reward. We have to ask more about what does he means about the drawings.
The drawings just tools, so they can.
So it's not
what they.
It's not drawing approach then, right?
Yes, it's just like a rapport method.
It's something like narrative approach or
Just like what I've done to all my clients using the draw person. I'm not using it for any preborn purpose, like a big hat, meaning this or that. I ask about details of the drawing, and I'm leaning toward the story of the person instead. Who is she? Who is he? What has he been doing? How old?